Getting and staying organized in your business is something that we've all struggled with, or at least have struggled with at some time. So we are talking about it in today's episode. Hello, sunshine, and welcome back to the Gold Biz Podcast with me, your host, Rachel Traxler. Today, I have with me Melissa Rich to talk about systemizing your business, and we are really talking and diving into workflows and follow-ups to make sure that you're serving and booking your clients. So it's a really good episode. Grab your notebooks, pull up your notes app, and let's dive in and get started. All right, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I'm just so excited to talk to you about this topic. You're so good at it.
Thank you so much for having me. I am stinking excited to be here. I know everybody says that, but it's for real the truth. So I couldn't be more excited to dive into all of this good stuff.
Oh my goodness, you're awesome. And yeah, I'm excited just because we're going to be talking about like staying organized in your business and just business organization, project management, all that stuff, which I know a lot of photographers really struggle with because we get into it because we like the creative side of things. We like taking photos and then we forget, oh gosh, we have to run a full-blown freaking business and like run the back end, all of these things. And so can you just like set the stage, like tell us where, just first off, where you think people are kind of going wrong and how maybe we can get ahead of this before we get too deep down in like the rabbit hole of feeling like doomsday, like we can't save ourselves here. Like, is there anything that you see that people can kind of just start off like little things and start off with?
Yes. And you kind of touched on it already because you said we start this business because we want to be creative, right?
Yeah.
I was a photographer.
Yes.
I got roped into being a photographer because I was running the backside of our business. And then I started, this is beside the point, I guess, but I started picking up a camera after that. And so the thing that I noticed most about that, having worked with creatives for forever, is that creatives start a business to be creative, right? You think of your business as just a photography business, or I'm just taking photos, or I'm just doing this. I'm not a real business or an actual business. I don't need these tools to keep me organized because I just take photos. And so a lot of it is that mindset of I'm just a creative, that doesn't apply to me. You know what I mean? Because so often, so many project management tools and CRMs advertise themselves to businesses and small businesses, but like bigger small businesses and not just solo entrepreneurs. So a lot of it's mindset, I think.
Yeah. And I agree with that too. And I know everyone like works a little bit differently, but just to kind of dive in some strategies here, because I know you have a ton and I know that you have found something that really works. And I'm excited to dive into that and talk about that. But do you suggest, like, in terms of structuring days, like, do you like to do day blocking? Do you like to do time blocking? Can you talk a little bit about both of those and what you think?
I am so glad you asked this. So I do both, actually. I do what's called a themed week, and then I do time blocking on top of that. So what that means is I take my week and I divvy it up into different days, right? So like Monday, I focus on marketing only. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are for client meetings. Thursday is for product development. And then Friday is my CEO day. I like to do this because it keeps my brain in one lane. You know what I mean? On Marketing Monday, it's all about writing blog posts and creating things, social media content. So I'm always creating that way. Tuesday and Wednesday are client meetings for me. For photographers, that could be like culling day on Tuesday, editing day on Wednesday. That way your brain is in the zone and you're not switching back and forth on tasks all over the place, trying to get one thing done here and then another thing done there. And then within those themed days, I like to time block. And there are a couple of different ways that you can time block. The main way that I like to do it is I like to set aside like a chunk of time, say an hour and a half to work on task one, whatever that might be. If it's writing this blog post or reaching out to build this relationship or that kind of thing. And then task 2 comes an hour later after a little break. And then task 3 comes an hour later after that. That way I have the things that I know I need to get done. Everything else can wait. And they're all focused on one main lane, if you will. So my brain can stay there and not all over the place.
That's amazing. So you're essentially doing both. You are doing the day blocking and you're doing the time blocking. And I love that. Now, are you creating almost like a task list of, okay, this is the day I'm doing the Marketing Mondays. These are like from 10 to noon. This is what I'm doing here. And then do you go in and write tasks within the time block?
I don't get that minute, right?
Okay.
So like if I set aside my time one and like my planner literally has a block out today from like 10 to 11 to work on content, right? And that's all that is I have within that task. And then I check out my project management tool to see what that means. So it's like writing a blog post, writing a newsletter, creating an Instagram post. So I kind of use the two in tandem, but I try not to get so detailed that I get lost in the details and then can't keep up with it. Because that's another key piece
Yes.
here, I think.
Yes.
You know what
Like
I
just
mean?
overwhelm. Cause then like overwhelm will stop you from doing anything
Oh,
too, which I would love to get
it's
into. So hold that thought though, because we'll get into, because I want to ask a quick question before we dive into
yeah.
that. Cause I feel like that's a
Yeah.
bigger topic. What program do you like to use for your project management?
So I am a ClickUp girl.
Okay.
I love it. But I have found that a lot of creatives that I work with really like Trello because it's visual, it's
Sure.
easy to
Yeah.
put
That makes
together, it's
sense.
easy to get started, and it's visual, right? So you move the pieces. You literally move your clients through your workflow or whatever it is to get it done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So basically just finding something that works for you. I like to use Asana,
mhm,
which is very similar to
mhm,
Trello. So
mhm.
kind of like you were saying, like just seeing a visual aspect.
Yeah.
I like to use Asana for my task, like project management, and then Slack for my team communication. So I'm kind of
Yes.
like using that a little bit. I've heard such great things about ClickUp though. So I feel like whatever works for you, like whatever program or just system, I feel like that you feel like you can visually understand, I think would be good.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's the key with any tool, right?
yeah,
You have to use what's going to work for you, and if you get into it and it's not working for you, don't be afraid to change it until you find something that does work for you, especially as a creative. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
you have to find a tool that works for you.
Yes. And then how do you, so you find this tool, like, or like you get in the groove, you figure out like maybe day blocking, some time
Mhm.
blocking, you have this like this system that you're kind of using and stuff. How do you suggest people stay consistent? Because I don't know about you, but in the past, I feel like I've got a good routine, but it also changes sometimes too. I'd be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
marketing Mondays, editing Tuesdays, like culling when whatever that is, and then how do you stay consistent with it? Because sometimes like I'm doing really good in this season and then a month in you're like drop off from it. So
Right.
what consistency tips that can you give?
I mean, you make a great point, and I think we all go through cycles, right? You know what I mean? Like busy season, slow season, that looks different for everybody. Our ability to like focus on what we're doing changes from day to day as creatives. And so to stay consistent, like again, it goes back to overwhelm. Don't overwhelm yourself. If you can only get one thing done on a day, one marketing task on
Mhm.
Monday, great. If it doesn't get done on Monday, maybe during busy season, you combine marketing and CEO day. So you spend the morning working on marketing tasks, in the afternoon working on like bookkeeping and CEO stuff. Um, but I think you have to recognize that it doesn't have to be a perfect thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Systems don't have to be perfect. Workflows don't have
Yep.
to be perfect. How you manage your time doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
Give yourself some grace because it's going to ebb and flow. But also, we are all human.
Hmm.
And so you have to like account for, oh, shoot, I wasn't feeling well this day. I guess that's okay. I'll get done what I can another day, or it can wait until next week and it's not the end of the world. Like,
Yeah.
give yourself some grace as well, too.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of that too. I feel like we're all so hard on ourselves if we don't stay like on top consistent or if we don't do all the things, like just give yourself grace with
Mhm.
that. I think that that's awesome. But then now I want to circle back to what we were saying is we get so overwhelmed. There's so many things to do. We wear so many hats and doing all of these things that
Gosh.
how do you make sure and prevent getting into like overwhelm and then getting yourself in like overwhelm paralysis where you have so much to do that you just are avoiding and you don't even want to get into it? Like how can we get ourselves so like organized or stay on top of that so we don't find ourselves in that situation?
Mhm. Mhm. That's a great question. And I'm going to revert back to the project management tool again, right?
Yeah.
I have like an ongoing to do list in my ClickUp list, and I use that with my planner. And so everything that comes into my head goes into ClickUp, and then I pull it out from there. I think it boils down to like not being overwhelmed. We all have days. Shoot, last week I just wanted to sit in bed and cry. You know what I mean? Like we all have those days where we're so overwhelmed. And sometimes it's just picking one thing, even if it's the lowest hanging fruit, and getting started with that to give yourself a win and the confidence of, oh, I can do this. If I can do this while I'm feeling like this, maybe I can do another thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you've got to give yourself You've got to take it one step at a time. You can't, this is a really bad analogy, but like you can't eat an elephant all at once, right? Like it's
Yeah.
one piece, it's piece by piece, one time at a time, one thing at a time. Like you've got to just break it down and start simple, whether that's with Overwhelm, with task building systems, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. That's a really good way to start. Just little bits at a time. Don't take it. Cause then, yeah, when you're taking off the big things right away, it can seem daunting and you're going to burn yourself out really quick. So if you can start with the low stuff, can you give some examples of easy ways that you can start with just the small tasks with like just at least getting organized? Cause I think some people might be like, yeah, I have all these things to do, or everything that I have in my brain, it's all scattered. What are some small things I can do to at least just get started getting organized?
I like to put them all when your brain is so like, I don't want to say clouded, but so full of everything, get them out of your brain, get them onto a piece of paper. If you're pen and paper, get them into your project management tool, and then look at the must-haves, right? An analogy I like to use is identify your glass balls, right? If you were juggling all these balls in the air, which ones are the glass ones that you absolutely cannot break? And then which ones, if you drop them, it's going to be okay. They're not going to shatter, right? So identify your glass balls, figure out what those are, and then pick part of that and start tackling that. That can look like making a priority list, figuring out when your deadlines are or what you has to be done absolutely right now that only I can do, life or death. You know what I mean? It all boils back to prioritizing, and only you can prioritize for your business. I could look at your to-do list, Rachel, and be like, oh, this is the order that I would do things in. But you could look at mine and be like, no, I do it like this, actually. But so you have to take into account how you work as well, too. And again, go for that low-hanging fruit. Pick something that's like, if you have to upload a gallery or if you need to send a review email to a client, something that's easy. Start with an easy win and then go from there. Build up from there.
I love the analogy of the glass ball. I think that that's so awesome. And even just the thing that was coming through my mind as you were saying that, like the one ball that I feel like would be a glass ball for photographers is like your workflows and your client experience with your workflows. And so there's a lot that goes into client experience, but I was thinking about workflow when I thought about that. So it's like, that's the one thing. It's like, if you can just get that organized and like serve your clients for a better client experience, then you can piece the rest together eventually.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I am a workflow. That's what I do, right? So I'm a workflow and systems
You get
nerd
it.
to the T, if you will. Right? And so that is what I do. And I 100% agree with you that client experience and getting your CRM set up and everything like that, once you nail that frees up so much time. So much time. People will be amazed.
It's
Amazed
crazy.
at how much time you get back.
It is wild.
It's nuts.
And I know that you said that you're really good at that and that's something that you specialize in. And so tell me some things that you find that photographers don't have that they maybe should have in their workflows.
You would be amazed at the number, like in their workflow specifically, follow-ups to new leads, right?
Yes.
I work with a lot of photographers who, and I get this because I've been there, who want to customize every single email and handwrite every single email. But then that means that you're not following up because you've crafted that one beautiful introductory email, but then you don't hear back from the client, maybe because life happened, and then you're not doing any follow-up, so you lose that lead. Another thing that I think a lot of people are missing is the follow-up after you deliver a session and like asking for a review or asking for a repeat session. Like you've worked your booty off to land this client and you've hopefully nurtured them along the way and they had a great experience. It's time for them to tell the world how amazing you are. So build that automated review request in. I know we all have clients we're not sure if we want to ask for a review. So maybe make that an approved thing. You know what I mean? But then also don't forget to ask for a session like a year later. There's nothing wrong with that. And then that's a repeat client that you can have come back again and again. Those are just a couple of things. I could write a book, go on for hours.
I love that. And I totally agree with you on that of making sure. My question is, if people are doing a lot of like, hold on, there's a truck passing. I'm just going to let that pass. So it's not an audio. So my question is to with the follow-up, if you're doing customization and doing customized
Mhm.
inquiry response and all that stuff, and you want to have this follow-up, but you don't want to have it just be a
Mhm.
general follow-up, or do you want to just have it be a general follow-up? Like, what do you like to do? And let's talk about the follow-up specifically to an initial inquiry that
Yeah.
you send them your prices, you do all of these things, you haven't heard back from them. What do you like to do with that follow-up in terms of
Okay.
your workflow?
So again, I'm going to nerd out here because this is something that is easy to implement, right?
Yes.
Yes, you should follow up at least twice because we've all been that down that path where we've reached out to somebody and then something happens in our own life that
Yep.
prevents us from getting back. So you
Yep.
want to follow up. That being said, you don't want to do a, hey, I'm checking in to just make sure you got my last email. Everybody checks in. You want to set your business apart, right? That doesn't do your
100%.
client any good. So don't just check in. Instead, craft an email that sounds like you are talking to them, like you're having a conversation with a friend, right? But instead of just checking in with them, provide some resource, provide some education, provide some value. If you're a wedding photographer, maybe you say, here are some of my favorite wedding planning resources that don't stress couples out, because we all know that there are planning resources that stress couples out so crazy. Or maybe if you're a family
Yes.
photographer, you were like, here are some of our favorite family session locations, or here's how to get your kids ready for their session. Like provide value and education in that, at least that secondary one. That way you are serving your client through and through. That's going to set you apart. And it can be something that's templated already. And then I honestly, Rachel, people go either way with this. I'm a big fan of the magic email. Do you use the magic email? Have you heard of it?
I have my own version of what that might
Uh-huh.
be. I don't know if it's going to be the same as what you do, but why don't you tell me and then we'll see if
Yeah. So
it's similar.
it sounds really like short and brutal and very cold, but it gets the job done. Essentially, it's a one-liner that says, I'm assuming since I haven't heard back from
Yes.
you on this, you've changed your mind. I'm taking you off my list. Thank you.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
That's that technically second follow-up. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep. I call
And
it like
then,
the last call email.
yes,
This is it. This is
exactly.
the last call. Yes or no?
Yes. The
Yep.
number of people that, one, in my own business have replied back to that email, but in my clients' businesses as well too. Like if you
Yep.
don't do the follow-up, you're going to lose all that business if you don't have that email. And that can easily be automated, but again, written in your own voice and with your own feelings so that it's more conversational and less
Mhm.
cold and this is it. You know what I mean?
Yes. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's either it's going to prompt an answer and a response either way. It's going to be, yes, I'm so sorry. We did go in a different direction. Cool. Now you know. Or
Mhm.
it's going to be like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I'm so sorry. We were so busy. We're touring our venue
Mhm.
tomorrow. We're going to give you details as soon as we know. Like you're going to get a response most likely, or at least a
Yes.
lot higher chance than if you're not doing this follow up. And you're at least going to get an answer. So you at least know.
Right. Exactly. I love it. But for follow up, like provide value, provide resources,
Yes.
be a good resource,
Yeah.
be human and understanding. You know what I mean? Because again, we've all been in that situation where life just happens all of
Uh-huh.
a sudden.
Totally. And
So
I love the idea of providing resources. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of that. But then also maybe have like a running list of resources that apply. So, and apply to the type of maybe person or buyer they are.
Mhm.
So it's like if you can tell they're more like left brain analytical thinking, maybe have some resources ready to go that are like a chart of you compared to other
Yeah.
offers or services. And then maybe if they're more right brain thinkers or value really significance in a wedding, maybe showcase where you've been featured. And it's like a one page
Mhm.
of places you've been featured, or this is what your feature blog post would look like with me.
Oh my
Have
gosh.
resources
Yes,
like literally
absolutely.
lined up and ready to go. Or if they're staying in their initial inquiry, we're not good in front of the camera. We don't know what to wear. We don't know what to pose. Then you can you can have a resource being like, this couple also said the same thing as you, and this is what their gallery turned out like. Here are just a couple outfit options, like of how I guide you through that, like giving them some ease and stuff like that, or just
Yes,
like speaking.
100%.
Yeah, and it's just providing resources basically that speak into those limiting beliefs that they have about why they're not going to do good or why maybe they shouldn't book with you or anything like that. And obviously, if it's aligned, really using those to speak into, no, why, this is why I am the best fit for you. This is why I am the photographer for you. So I love that.
Those are all great ideas. I mean, honestly, though, you're speaking to your clients' emotions and not just trying to sell to them. And
Yeah.
anytime you try to serve your client, like
Yep.
that's going to end up serving you so much better and doing you so much more good in the long run.
Oh, that's exactly right. I love all that stuff. What's kind of like to like wrap things, like just to wrap it all up and stuff. What's kind of one thing or just something, I guess, that you think photographers should take, you're like, oh no, should do to just get started being more organized in their business? It can be anything. I know we talked a lot about workflows, but
if I had to say anything, and this is going to be a super non-sexy answer, and I totally get that there are going to be a lot of eye rolls when people listen
I
to
want to
this.
hear it. Bring it on.
But I would say document your process, like create a standard operating procedure.
Yes. That is a sexy topic. I love it.
I mean, honestly, though, that's going to save you so much of your beautiful creative brain juice. You know what I mean? If you can document, or if you can reference this list of things that you need to do for every single client and how to do it. Like, yes, it's a pain in the butt to create, but it's also necessary. And this is super morbid, Rachel, but honestly, we're all solopreneurs, right? What happens if somebody else has to step into our business and do these things for us if we're not able to? But like, create those SOPs, make sure they're handy. It can just be a checklist. It doesn't have to be fancy. Do a screen recording of you doing something. That's good enough.
I'm a big fan of that. You know what? It's super easy. Just having like a Google Doc, like in your Google Drive, literally labeled SOPs, and then you click into it, and then it's certain little things like how I find a gallery, basically. Like, I mean, they can be super simple, all the things. It could be how I send an email, how I have an automated workflow, the steps in my workflow, whatever. And then within that little Google Doc, just, like you said, little checklist, or if you do a little screen recording on Loom or whatever that is, just link that video link right in that Google Doc. And it's just right there.
Right? It's there for you. It's there for any future team members, for anybody that you might train. Like, it's there.
Yeah. Anytime that you bring on a team member, or if things within your team need to shift and people take on different roles or tasks, or temporarily having someone help you out, you literally just, like you said, saving your own precious brain power of, okay, now I have to sit and train you and teach you how to do this, or I can just send you over this Google Doc of things I wrote down, and you can follow up with questions, and it helps.
But also, like,
yeah. I
mean, and it's great for like busy season you know what I mean? Like, create your workflows and your systems and your SOPs when things are slower, when you are, I don't want to say when you're a sane person, but when you're not staying up until 2 a.m. on caffeine editing 500 shoots, like, create your SOPs and your workflows when things are slow, so that busy season you can lean on them and really use them and save that energy and be more productive and effective, efficient.
I love that. That's such a good, if you don't have them already, just start pecking away at those. That's a good little action step to take from today. If you're like, wait, what? I don't have any SOPs written. What is an SOP? Like, I haven't even started. That would just be a good thing for you to just start. Just even start pecking away at just a couple. I think that's awesome. Yeah. Oh, I love that, Melissa. Well, I also like to end and ask, like, what's currently bringing you joy?
I love this question. And I love that you do. I love so much that you do this.
Oh, good. And it can be anything.
Yes. So lately I've really been loving it. I am in Kansas City, right? So during the summer, it feels like an armpit here because it's so stinking humid, but we are not there yet. And so I am loving taking my dogs to the park and having a little picnic and just enjoying laying in the grass, soaking up the sun, ice cream, all these early summer things. Yes. I'm just really, really loving them, and they bring me so much joy right now. Like, just being able to take in the moment.
I love that. Sunshine and ice cream. I feel like, who could that not make happy? That's what I want. Now you make me want to go do that tonight. I love that. That's so fun. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you tell us all where we can find you?
Yeah, so I am Virtually Done Systems everywhere. On Instagram, I'm at Virtually Done Systems. My email is Melissa at Virtually Done Systems, and my website is virtuallydonesystems.com. Sorry for the mouthful. I tried to find an abbreviation, but nothing sounded appropriate. Easy peasy. So that's where I am, and I like to be an open resource. So whatever you need, if you have questions, I'm 100% here for them.
You're so sweet. Well, we'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes and make sure that everybody knows how to find you and all the things. But thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
All right, there you have it. I really hope that this episode was helpful for you. And if you want to see a breakdown of my exact workflow, you can watch a video walkthrough that I made at racheltraxler.com/honeybook-workflow-freebie. And you can watch exactly how I lay out my entire workflow from start to finish and how I break it down into phases and what that all looks like as well. And I'll make sure to link it in the show notes as well so that you can grab it. But thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I appreciate you so much. And as always, keep shining and we'll see you next time.